Okay, welcome to Art 117. So we are we are plunging forward in this exciting idea of a mask design that we're trying to do, and we're trying to hit a deadline for our team that is playing the game with Invent Oregon to actually have some kind of mask prototype made, and enough understanding of this design process and the criteria that we're trying to meet so that they can speak somewhat authoritatively when we meet next Thursday night at 6:30 for this Invent Oregon thing. That's going to be online. So this is not a regularly scheduled class period. This is going to be a 6:30 in the evening inventors showcase to show off the inventions that we're making at our school. And so far there are two teams. There's one team from the design class that's working on this mask, and there's another design team, I think, that comes out of the physics class, and I don't know what they've invented. They're working on some other kind of a project. So it's just, it's pretty much, we are just our own thing. And from the email that I got copied on yesterday, the physics teacher says that because there's only two of our teams, we're both going to advance to the semifinals late in April. So we're going to have another 3 weeks to work on this and define, refine this a little bit more, and then we're going to present it again in another one of these virtual things to see if we can then advance our team to the state finals. That's going to happen more like in late May or June. Okay, so that's kind of fun and that's kind of exciting. It's kind of extracurricular, and I'm trying to build this class project into something that can be as supportive of this initiative as possible. So the entire class is doing the design, and we're all kind of going through the design process and the making process for this mask. And so that's going to continue today. So I'd like to get you guys to just kind of bear with me, because all of this was like uploaded and hot on my screen and ready to go, and now it's not so much. Let me see if I can do a share screen with you guys and open up some of the projects that got turned in so far. I can't open them up all, and I can't critique everything because time is of the essence, but I wanted to do a couple of them for you so that you can see what your fellow students are kind of working on, and how all of us are working in different media. So that's kind of interesting, because some of these things are digital media and others are, pencil and paper, or crayon and paper, which is just fine. So let me hit the share screen thing and see how that works. I'm going to share a couple of these things. We're going to start, I guess, poor Madison. We're going to start with her because, late to the class and everything, you might as well just be the first one, in the firing line. Actually, we're very gentle.
Thank you.
This. Well, yeah, so go ahead and unmute your mic and speak up. And God, where is my...
Okay.
I wish I could turn up the volume so I could hear you better. So beautiful. You downloaded our mask making drawing template, and you played around with a mask design, which is fantastic. You also accessed the YouTube videos, so you saw the couple of class recordings, and that's great. And I just wanted to do a quick critique on this. You're working with several different panels on this mask. So if I'm reading this correctly, these might be looked at as different pattern pieces of material that are joined on these black things, which might be seams, and then they might be covered over with some kind of a black banding or something like that. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes, you are. I wanted them to like stand out, so that way the mask could be seen as like what's the word, professional, but like also able to be like fashionable. So that's why I added the bordered kind of lines.
All right, that's cool. And you're working with a around the back of the head tie or fastening device of some kind, and it's illustrated over here on the far left-hand side, which is just fine. And as we go with this, you know, this idea could be refined into an elastic band. It could be
Mm-hmm.
refined into something that had a Velcro closure on the back so that it could kind of zip on and zip off. I think
Mm-hmm.
that ties are important. Trying to be able to pull the mask tight onto the face would improve the overall fit of the outside contours of the mask, and it would
Mm-hmm.
improve the tightness of the seal around the edges of the mask, which has always been the big complaint, criticism of cloth masks is that they don't seal tightly around their edges, so they don't form a good barrier to be an actual respirator. So you are addressing that in this idea. Um, and so I have to flip to the next one so I can keep playing with this. So I got to stop the share. I got to go back to share screen and I got to hit share screen again. And I'm going to do one of Ethan's. Because he submitted a couple of them. And again, I think he's playing digitally here with digital media. And so, Ethan, are you there? No, he's not here today. So I don't know. This looks like something that he may have been playing with in like a paint program or something, so that he was playing with a pen tool in a digital paint program to kind of draw the outside contours of the mask. And then he was playing with a paint program like spray paint and other kind of textures to kind of fill in some of the textures for the color of the mask and everything. And he was picking up on several other design ideas. He's playing with the idea of the ear loop design, which is really another good fast on and fast off kind of donning of the mask thing. Um, he's picking up on some of my ideas that I'm pushing quite a bit of trying to bring the mask contours away from the ear and bring them closer to the cheekbone to jaw line like this, to try to make the mask just a little teeny tiny smaller so that it doesn't make your face look so fat when we're viewing the mask from the front. I think that we have to consider fashion and the cut of the mask as important as the function of the mask. If we're really going to try to get people to buy in to a third generation COVID cloth mask, it really has to look good. It has to be flattering to the wearer. And so I think he's picking up on some of these ideas, which is really cool. And I'm not even going to give you guys time to respond, because I just got to keep running roughshod over this class to cover a whole bunch of stuff. So bear with me, buckle your seatbelts, because it's going to be a bumpy ride. Okay, so the next up, we've got Sarah Gray's mask here. She's using digital software to design her mask. And so she found a three-dimensional, three-quarter head digital for this process. And then she has been creating her digital mask to contour on that using some kind of a design pattern that she could actually manipulate and paint into the front of the mask like this. And it's very geometric, and it's kind of it feels very dynamic and kind of got some Eastern influences and stuff like that going on. I see the banding on the outside edges of the mask as kind of a design element, which is nice. And it also kind of ties right into the ties that are going to go behind the head. And again, this could be either tied in the back, Velcroed in the back, or an elastic band that goes all the way around the head. So I see you guys playing with all of these kinds of issues with the mask. And there are so many that, if I didn't even break it down, but there's like 20 different design concepts in terms of the fitness of the mask. So we are trying to go around the contours of the nose. And I was complaining in my earlier videos about people being able to sneak their beaks out of the nose. So I really wanted to try to have this eye cut that goes around the underside of the eye like this. I want it to come up on the bridge of the nose, probably as high as possible, to prevent people from sneaking their beaks, or to prevent it from falling down. I see so many of the masks that are rectangular straight lines coming down really low on the tips of a lot of people's noses, and then it just falls down when they're trying to talk and stuff, and it's really annoying. So to have this contour, this curving contour on the under the eye and up on the bridge of the nose is really important. Where we decide to make the mask end over here is something I'm going to cover more today. And so I'm seeing the contour of this. It's got a slight curve to it. I don't know if that was meaningful or not, but that's an interesting, design choice, because it kind of helps with the seal of the mask on the side of the face. A lot of people are looking for a mask that comes under the chin and under the jawline. And I think we're specifying that with this particular mask design. This is Sarah's. I keep getting Sarah and Ethan mixed up because they're both on the team. So I see that Sarah has wrapped her mask definitely underneath the chin, which again compounds the idea of good seal and good fitment for the mask. So that's really important. And so good job, Sarah. This is a fantastic thing. Oh, she's not here today either. Okay, so I'm back with you guys again. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about actually transitioning now from designing by drawing the mask on a piece of paper to drawing a pattern and using a pattern for then making a prototype of the mask, for actually making a three-dimensional model of the mask that fits on a person's face. So I'm going to offer you guys several options for that. If you don't have access to a sewing machine, and if you have underlying conditions and you do not want to be exposed to any possibility of the coronavirus, you can prototype this in your dorm room or at home out of paper if you want to. All I'm going to ask you to do is to use the mask template, mask pattern that I'm providing here. This is the full-size mask pattern that I have revised several times. It's like a third or fourth generation mask pattern based on the COVID mask. And then this is just scalable to different sized faces. Especially these little dotted lines down here on the bottom are for trying to shrink the mask down smaller for a medium or a small size face. And I guess now that I think about it, I would even recommend that if you have a small size face, that you would sheet that dotted line up into the mask about a quarter of an inch or half an inch and go all the way around. God, I can't do this backwards. All the way around the mask with that dotted line. And that would be the new outside contour of the mask. And basically you just cut the mask down, a quarter inch if you want a medium sized mask, and cut it down a half an inch in margin all the way around if you want a small size mask. And you can even cut it down smaller if you want a child size mask. This is a full size mask that fits my face. It's a large, and I'm a large face, so it has to fit me. So anyway, I'm uploading this to coursework today, and it will be available for you guys to download and print out as a basis for a COVID mask pattern, and a pattern that then you can manipulate this. You can change it to your needs, but this is based on the COVID mask. And page 2 of this thing is the liner. So my concept for the liner is different than all the other COVID mask concepts in that I'm sewing the liner in all the way around and then just making this part right here the opening that you would be able to turn the mask inside out when you need to turn the mask inside out during the sewing process. But this also then creates the place where you're going to stuff the filter into the mask so that there's a relief and there's a window there to stuff the filter in. Plus, this is the tiny little bit of a window that provides just a little bit of relief in front of your lips and nose so that you can breathe a little bit easier, so that you can speak a little bit better, and so that when you're speaking, that the mask does not pull across your lips and muffle your speech. Because being able to communicate clearly has been a big problem with all of the first, second, and whatever generation COVID masks that have been available on the market up to this point. So I have to just keep plunging ahead. We're 20 minutes into the class, and I wanted to talk about this concept a little bit. So if we are using fabric, if we are using fabric for this stuff, the idea is to be able to take your mask pattern and lay it on top of a piece of fabric and then trace around it with a pencil or a pen. I have not charcoal, but charcoal would be good actually. I have chalk pens, pencils, and fabric marking pencils that I'm going to be using. And I'm going to give you guys, if you can come over here to work with me on this. I'm going to invite you guys to come over here on Saturday and cut out and sew your own masks if you can come over on Saturday. So I was going to save that to the end of today's thing, but so I just wanted to plant the seed, and then we'll actually talk about coming over here and the logistics of us going through different design stations where you can trace out your mask pattern on one station and cut it out. And then we'll go to the next station and sew it together. And then you'll go back to a workstation and turn it inside out and then iron it flat. And then we're going to cut out the other kinds of things that finish off the mask, the filters and the ear loop material, and build our masks tomorrow, Saturday, between like 9 o'clock in the morning and noon or 12 o'clock, or noon or 1 o'clock, depending on how this goes. So I'd like us to get together for that. Think about that while I'm talking about this. So we cut out 2 of these, and unfortunately I cut 2 out that were both the same size, or they're both like right sides of the mask. And what you actually need to remember is that most fabrics have a pretty side or a finished side, and the unfinished side of the mask, or the not pretty side. And we need to have the masks, the 2 mask pieces reversed for the Olsen mask. So you have a left side and a right side, so that you can put pretty side to pretty side and unfinished side to unfinished side. And the unfinished sides go towards the outside when we're sewing the mask, so that the pretty sides are on the inside, because we're going to be turning this inside out after we sew the mask pieces together around the outside. So the outside, we will be cutting out a right and a left side for the covers of the mask, and a right and a left side for the liners of the mask, so that we have 4 pieces of fabric that will fit together to create the mask. Now this mask has been sewn together and it's been turned right side out. So I'm going to turn this mask back inside out again, because this is how we create the mask for assembly, for sewing it together. So I'm kind of reversing the process and turning my mask inside out again. And I'm doing it through the filter pocket in the center of the backside of my mask. So I'm pushing all of this stuff back out again. So here is the original mask. We have the 2 cover pieces, and they are folded or sewn together so that it is, how are they folded together? I guess, oh, they're sewn together like this. Okay, the whole mask inside out goes like this. So we have pretty sides in, we have unfinished sides out, and we're gonna sew the first seam is where you sew the nose piece and the mouth piece together. So the outside covers of the mask are sewn from the nose down to the chin along this edge, and you really just leave a presser foot width of salvage along the seam, and then we can even trim that off to make that nicer. So that's how those 2 pieces get sewn together. The liner pieces, pretty much the part that comes up against your mouth gets sewn and just hemmed a little bit on those 2 things, and that's all we have to do. We don't have to do anything else, because the next thing we're going to do is sew the liner to the cover, pretty sides to pretty sides, finished sides in, not finished sides out, so that we have a seam along here, the top edge, we have a seam along the bottom edge on both sides of the mask. And so right now the mask is completely inside out. These are the liners that are on the outside, and we've got the covers on the inside. This is my opening that I make for the filter. I put it in the middle for a reason. I actually want to breathe through that hole. I'm relying on filters to be able to filter the air. Cloth masks are horrible for being able to breathe through the fabric because it's too restrictive. So we have to be able to use filter material, high tech, um, you know, material science created filter material, some kind of a polypropylene, non-woven, melt blown material. I ordered these from Amazon. They were supposed to be N95 filters. And of course, look at this. It comes as a rectangle. It doesn't come shaped to go into my mask, but at least I can test the hypothesis of whether you can breathe through this. Actually, this is so difficult, it's so restrictive that it's not a very viable filter material for breathing through. It's better the larger of surface area that you use for it. So not just the surface area of your windpipe or the surface area of your mouth or even the surface area of your nose. The entire mask, the entire front of the mask needs to be permeable and penetrated and perforated so that you can have air and gases exchanging through this large surface area so that it cuts down on the restriction so that you can actually breathe through the filter and breathe through the mask. So when we come back to the mask, we're going to take our sewn mask and turn it back right side out again. And so I'm going to be turning the mask through its center hole. Sometimes we need to use a pencil or a butter knife or something to push that back through again. So that's one side turned right side out. And then I'm going to come over here and turn the other side. Where is the other side? This is the other side. Right side out after all the sewing has been done. And that puts all the seams on the inside. This is a seamstress sewing trick. Most of your suits and shirts and other kinds of things that have concealed seams are sewn kind of inside out and then turned right side out so that all of the hems and all of the seams are on the inside, and all we have is this edge where the two edges come together. We fold this flat, we press it flat with an iron on an ironing board to get the finished mask. And then we have to work on the finishing details, which is to hem and roll these sides to come back to form a tunnel. And this tunnel right here is what you're going to put your tying mechanism through to tie it around your head or to tie it into itself to create an ear loop. This is the place where the ear loop interacts with the mask. And so when we've done all of that, we wind up with a finished mask, again, that fits the face, that has contours so that the mask could go up pretty high on the bridge of the nose and flow underneath the eyes. And I have to say that I made these patterns earlier, and I keep refining this curve more and more and more to try to get it to go up on the bridge of the nose, but to cut away from under the eyes so that it doesn't restrict your vision or anything like that. And as the mask comes around, this is an earlier version, and this is the part I'm going to talk about today, is that the side of the mask comes up here, the tunnel for passing the cordage through is sewn back here, and then your choice of tying devices, cordage, or whatever can come out of it. And you can go all the way around the back of the head with some kind of tie that ties in the back. You can have this be a elastic band if you want, or again, it can be a tie that is flat that has Velcro on both ends so that it can Velcro together in the back. And by being able to either have Velcro or a tie, it allows you to custom tighten the mask to your head size and shape so that you get a really good fit of the mask. Now, this is one of the masks I made 6 months ago. And this is my size face, my face size of mask. And this This wig stand is a female-sized head, so it's like a little, it's a head that's smaller than my head, and the face is smaller than my face. And so my large size mask is too big for this size of a person, or in this case, the wig stand that I've got it pinned to. It is kind of fun though to use a styrofoam wig stand head so that we can have something to pin the mask to and then see how the actual prototype works in terms of how it hangs on the face, how it presents the eyes, how it follows contours, and what kind of changes we might need to fix it. So I've done that today for you guys with this particular mask. This mask was sewn as a little bit smaller size when I sewed it. This was not a finished mask, so I was able to take it this morning and use a pair of scissors to kind of make some strategic cuts. And I've been doing some nipping and tucking with this, trying to get it to fit better. And what I wanted to do today, this is one of those masks that has the outrageous pattern on it, which we all thought was really cool when we were designing masks 6 months ago. And now we have decided that outrageous patterns make your face look fat, and they become the focal point of your entire face. And we want the eyes to be the focal point. We want the person to still be the focal point of your interaction with other people. And that's why I think that we need to go to neutral colors. We need to go to understated, very, very subtle prints if you're going to use a print in this mask. And I really think we need to do pinstripes. I think we need to do vertical pinstripes so that it makes your face look narrower and smaller and just more put together, because these wide geometric or floral patterns just tend to make people's cheeks look huge and makes your face look fat, and that's not a good look. We want to try to again bring some of the idea of fashion accessorizing and fashion flattering of the face or flattering of the body forms into the design of the mask. Now, what I've done for today is to try to cut and tuck and whatever the sides of the mask, because I'm trying to bring the sides of the mask in from the ear. I'm trying to pull this back to the cheekbone and then bring it down at an angle. Sorry, God, I can't do this way. Bring it down at an angle to the jawbone down here, so that I'm at either a vertical angle or a slight inclination going towards the ear. But I'm interested in a shape or a line that kind of follows what my beard is doing right here, so that it comes down at an angle, because this line is more flattering to the face than something that is either straight down or goes back the other way. So trying to find exactly the right angle for this. And I would even like to move this point further down the jaw just a little bit to get this angle to really be an angle that flatters from the cheekbone to the jawbone on, let me get my finger right, on a linear line or angle that goes about like this. So it has about that line of angle on the face. And if I can do this with two linear forms, we're going to just do it with pens right now. So from the cheekbone on both sides to about where, well, yeah, right, really where about my goatee is, would be a more flattering angle for the mask to be on the front, from the front view of the mask. And that's what I'm trying to do by pinning and tucking and trying to reimagine what the outside contours of the mask are. Okay, I beat that one to death. I'm so sorry. So what I am proposing is that you guys take this pattern and play around with this pattern today if you want to. And otherwise you can—
Mr. Fritz?
Yeah. Can you say it again?
Fritz?
Yeah, I'm here. Are you here?
Mr. Fritz?
Let's see, Madison, go ahead and speak. Go ahead. But you're breaking up too.
I can't. Okay.
Uh-oh. We've got a bad internet connection today, so you're not hearing me very good. You might want to go back and play the YouTube recording later on, because you'll hear it better on the YouTube recording, okay? So don't worry about it right now, because you're breaking up to me too. Okay. I'm going to want you guys to use a pattern, and tomorrow I would actually like, if you have your own sewing machine, you can do this at home. But I'm going to set up a sewing machine, and I'm going to have a person here who knows how to sew. And then I'm going to set up several different production stations so that you can lay out your pattern on the fabric. You can cut out the fabric. We can sew the fabric together. Then you can go to another station and iron out the mask to get it all flattened out and pretty again. And then we will create the ties for the mask. I got this upside down. We're going to create the ear loops or the ties for the mask, and you can play with different beads or other kinds of things if you want to add beads or beadwork to the ear ties or something like that. I usually have my ear loops pulled like that so that the bead hangs straight down, almost like an earring, you know, straight down below my ear. And that's one thing you can do. I've got other kinds of notions that you can play with, different kinds of trim that you could sew onto the mask if you wanted to. This is going against what my basic design concept is, which is unfortunate. Let's see. I see now there is a there's something in the chat, so I'm going to open up the chat. I can't hear the audio. I'm sorry. Okay.
Mr. Fritz?
Yeah. I can hear you say my name, and then you completely cut out, and I can't
hear anything. I have no idea what you just said. I saw you. I can't hear anything.
Okay. Let me type into the chat.
I have no idea. Yeah, I have no idea what you just said.
Okay. I'm typing in the chat.
And right now your camera's frozen, or at least on my end it is. So I don't know if it's just my connection or...
Okay, it's your connection. It's your connection. I'm going to say check out the recording.
What do I do?
Later. Okay, and you'll be fine. Okay, coming back to you guys.
Okay.
Let's see. Where was I? So I want to do this tomorrow, Saturday morning. I'd like you guys to come in groups of 2 or 3 every half hour. So I want, like, I was going to do this in alphabetical order. So Adriel and Ethan and Sarah, you know, if you guys could come in at 9 o'clock to Eden Hall. I'm going to have Eden Hall number 3 opened up for us with all of these workstations created. The workstations are socially distanced. In fact, they are super socially distanced from each other. And I'm going to have a sewing machine there with somebody who can sew. So you're going to cut out your fabrics, and I'm going to supply a lot of the fabrics. I have lots and lots of fabric available for us to work with. So lots of fabric that I will supply. I'm feeling like I'm doing this as a pantomime so you guys can see. If Adriel, Ethan, and Sarah can come in at 9 o'clock on Saturday, and Alexis and Kelsey and Carly can come in at like 9:30, and then Mai and Sosafina and Emily and Madison, no, well, yeah, could come in at 10. Actually, Madison and Daniela could come in at 10:30. And that way I've got people coming in to the design process staggered so that we're not overwhelming and creating bottlenecks in the different workstations that I've got. If you can't make it, that's fine. If you want to stay home and do this at home as a home project, that's fine. I just want to offer this as an opportunity to get a mask made and to get you some hands-on experience working with fabric and the sewing process so that we have something to talk about next week as we refine the mask making process, moving towards the Thursday night product showcase that we're going to have online with Invent Oregon. If we can have everybody or most people be able to create at least one mask, mask design of some kind, that's your prototype, then you can kind of walk your way through this whole prototype process and kind of see how this is working. This is our first project. It's kind of a major project, and with all of the limitations and the problems of doing this online and in the middle of a pandemic, I would still like to come in tomorrow morning on Saturday and actually sew masks together. So if you guys can come in staggered formation alphabetically, once again, you know, I'd like Adriel, Ethan, and Sarah to show up at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then Alexis, Kelsey, and Carly.
Can I
Yeah,
come with my?
can you? Who can come at 9?
No, with my.
Daniela. Yes, Daniela, you can come at 9. Let's
Yeah,
reschedule Sarah
I'm
for
requesting to
9:30
go
then.
with my.
You're gonna bring Mai?
Yeah.
Okay. Daniela, thank you for making friends with Mai and bringing her with you. Okay, let's reschedule this. Let's have Daniela and Mai come at 9 o'clock. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, so just the two of you come at 9 o'clock. Then we're going to do Adriel, Ethan, and Sarah at 9:30 so that I don't have a traffic jam. And then if Alexis and Kelsey and Carly can show up at 10, that would be good. And then everybody else, Josefina, Emily, and Madison could come at 10:30. We will run you guys through a process of making masks and see, we're going to see how it works and see if we can make it work or not. Wish me luck. I think this is going to be either brilliant or it's really going to suck. And I'll find out tomorrow when we do this. Okay. So having said all that, this would have been a much better presentation had I not lost all my material 5 minutes before class started. But I think we pulled it off, and you get a pretty good idea of what we're talking about in terms of taking this to the next level. We actually want to either use this pattern or use this pattern to create a pattern of your own. I'm really a believer in the Olson mask design. Let me tell you one more reason why. And that's just because as something that looks like a sewn kind of put together something that has its own structure, but that it's relatively easy to sew because it only has 2 pieces and 2 parts. This mask is about the best. With this seam that goes right down the middle, it creates as much of a structure as you can have in the mask without having to break it into 3 or 4 or 5 different pattern pieces and then go through all of the agony of sewing together, you know, several pattern pieces. This is 2 pattern pieces that go together and make a really simple design that still contours to the nose and mouth. And we can then we can work with it to try to contour it to the rest of the face. So that's why I've become an advocate of the basic Olsen mask design. It's the simplest way to achieve something that still looks like it has structure, because this has more structure than just a flat mask that pulls straight across your face. This has enough structure to it to allow some space in front of the lips for talking and the ability to breathe just a little bit easy. And it also allows a little bit of space for us to stuff that filter material into the pocket and still not impede your speaking or anything. There's just enough slack in the material right here so that we can stuff at least 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch thick of the yuck, the filter material in there. And so that's why I really am a big fan of the Olsen design. Of all of the mask designs out there, it seems to offer the easiest way to assemble a cloth mask without going to extra expense and extra sewing and stuff like that. When you're thinking mass production, you also have to think about your production costs and the way that you're going to be using materials. And so you as designers don't necessarily have to think like that, but manufacturers do. There's a something in the chat here. Can you remind me what all do we need to bring from home for this? If you want to bring fabric of your choice, you can. You can go across the street to Walmart and buy a little piece of fabric. And in fact, that's what I did. Walmart has these little tiny things that they're calling super squares that are on a big rack in their department. And they call it a fat quarter because it's a 1/4 yard or just a little bit larger than a 1/4 yard of fabric. And so it's a piece of fabric that has been pre-cut and woven around a piece of cardboard. And so you get this quarter of fabric. And I got this because I was thinking that vertical lines were going to be slimming. So I got something that had vertical lines in it. I don't like this anymore because it's got too much contrast in it. And so when you sew this into a mask, then this is going to be the focal point on your face instead of your eyes. But I'd like to experiment with this just in terms of vertical lines on the mask. And in fact, if anybody is still drawing their drawing of the mask, we may actually want to try to draw the mask and color it in with vertical lines instead of horizontal lines, so that we can actually see what effect vertical lines and vertical striping has on the mask in terms of making it not make your face look too fat. I want to see what vertical striping does in terms of making it more flattering as a pattern for the human face. So that's the whole idea about lines and prints that are stripes, to try to run them vertically for the composition. So if you want to bring fabric, that's fine. Otherwise, I've got the sewing machines, I've got the fabric. If you have a sewing machine, Madison, and want to come to school and set up your sewing machine and be another sewing machine station, that would be absolutely lovely. So if you came over here to the school with that, that'd be fine. Otherwise, stay home and sew this thing at home on your sewing machine at home. But I'm going to have at least 2 sewing machines set up here with 2 people who can run sewing machines. So we're going to try to do that and not have a bottleneck in terms of sewing the pieces. We've been at this for 45 minutes and it's a complete CF. So I think I should stop here. But that's my plan. And we're going to see how many of you can actually make it tomorrow and how many of us can go through this process from pattern to actually having a finished mask. I'm going to ask you guys to wear the masks this weekend to see how they work, including we're going to be cutting out of other kinds of fabric. I've got batting and I've got melt blown furnace filter material that is HEPA kind of a furnace filter material that's woven tightly enough so that it filters out pollen grains, which is very, very small. And I've got polypropylene. So we're going to make our own filters, and then we're going to layer those filters into the masks and see how they work. One more thing, I also have a punch device. This is the device that I actually use to punch the holes in my masks. Those of you who have been with me for a couple of days have seen the holes that I punch in the mask, so that I'm actually now really relying on just the filters in the mask. And I've created a lot of permeability in the mask to remove all of the restriction so that I can breathe through the holes instead of trying to breathe through the fabric or around the edges of the mask, because I want to make this a respirator. I don't want this to just be a barrier mask. I want this to be a respirator that we can breathe through, that we can speak through, and that really promotes the free flowing of filtered air through the mask. Because I think that if we're going to be wearing masks for another year, we need to be able to design and market masks that work for people, that are fashionable, and that they are functional as masks. And that's the whole point of this project. Thank you for sticking with me today. You've been wonderful. If you can make it tomorrow, I would love to see you guys. So one last time, Daniela and Mai will be showing up at 9 o'clock in the morning. And then Adriel, Ethan, and Sarah at 9:30. Alexis, Kelsey, and Carly would be showing up at 10. Sosie, Emily, and Madison, I guess, would be showing up at 10:30. And that gets everybody a spot in the process to be able to build your masks tomorrow morning. And if we can't get it tomorrow morning, I'll leave up everything and we'll allow you guys to come in on, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week at your leisure to be able to sew your masks next week. But this at least gets us started in the process for tomorrow morning. So having said all that, have a good rest of your day. Have a good weekend. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow morning for some serious mask sewing. So I'm going to say goodbye for now, and I hope to see you again, tomorrow, otherwise next.